Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's love stream slash live stream. I have something really juicy I want to talk with you about, and if you are in the dating world, I know that this is going to be helpful for you. I know that because this is stuff that I've been hearing a lot about just recently in my client sessions, and a couple of you in the love room have posted kind of along the lines of this theme. So I'm going to be talking today about why and how I choose equilibrium over excitement, not just on the first date, but on the first phase of dating. So probably many of you are meeting people that you're dating online, and I'm going to kind of speak to that in particular because unlike how it used to be when our parents were setting us up, when the church was setting you up, when kind of people were dating within the community, there was much more sense of familiarity. You knew each other's family, you knew each other through church or congregation, you knew each other through school, right? So there's kind of a sense of you've either seen the person or you know something about them, you have some frame of reference. Online dating is entirely different because you don't know jack about this person, and they can say anything that they want. They can make shit up. They can, they can just say anything. So given that, I think it's always good to err on the side of cautious. Now, cautious is really different than mistrust. I don't necessarily expect them to be a bank robber or an asshole or somebody who's not trustable, but I don't give him the benefit of the doubt until he's shown me that he's earned that. That means that he does what he says he's going to do. He shows up when he says he's going to. He's reliable and consistent, kind of like all the markers that let me know this is a man of integrity. So when I go on a date with somebody who I've met online and I know literally this much about them, even if we've had a fabulous date and really good conversation and there was chemistry, at the end of that date, how much do I know about him? Maybe this much, right? Because it's one moment in time without any context, without any history. And part of what history does is it gives us a chance to see patterns. Anybody can show up any way one time, but how are they really in the bigger picture when there's enough time to see a pattern? Patterns actually tell us a lot about who somebody is. And by pattern, I just mean, does he call when he says he's going to call? Does he text when he says he's going to text and show up when he says he's going to show up, right? Those are all indicators of who somebody is and how they roll in the world. So, is this making sense so far? So here's what happens when you sit down with somebody and all the circuits are firing and you're feeling lit up and you're attracted to each other and there's good juju and good chemistry and you feel interested, right? Of course, it's natural to feel excitement. So there's a difference between feeling the excitement of the moment, like I'm not necessarily wanting to talk you out of that. You can definitely let yourself enjoy that. But what I do with that excitement is I don't project anything into the future. Nothing. I don't start imagining him as a husband. I don't start imagining him as a lover. I don't start imagining anything about him. I mean, I might just, kind of like in moments of curiosity, I might wonder about him. But I don't imbue the future with my fantasy because at that stage, it's still all fantasy. Right? And why is this important? Because as some of you have recently experienced, who somebody is on their first date is not necessarily who they're going to continue to be on the third date or the sixth date or 3 months from now. But along the way, there's more and more investment. So I really like to let reality fill in the picture rather than me filling in the picture and then I'm potentially disappointed or disheartened or really shocked and surprised. Okay. So the other thing that I want to say about hey, please say hello if you're here. Welcome. The other thing that I wanted to say about this is that, the way that I do this is I pretty much just make a decision that I'm going to allow myself a proportionate amount of excitement to how well I actually know the person, because that's what tells me how excited it's really worth getting, right? So the first thing I do is I just make the decision that I'm not going to kind of go all out. Hey, Jenny, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. It's a decision that I make. Now, this is actually different with somebody that I know because I've either been introduced to them or I know them through the community. If I think about years ago, one of my long-term relationships that I was actually one really great relationship, we met each other because we were introduced by friends. And everything that my friend told me about this guy made me kind of feel a little bit more open and a little more interested. And she knew him pretty well. She had also told him a fair amount about me. So by the time he and I actually had our first date, which was amazing, the guy showed up with a dozen red roses to my door, right? Classy. We kind of sort of had some familiarity. We kind of knew each other, and it was an amazing first date. And I did let myself get more excited there because he wasn't a complete stranger, right? That's very different than it is with online dating. So the first thing is I just kind of make a decision to sort of reel in and not let my heart be overly excited, just because otherwise I'm going to go on the roller coaster ride, right? I'm going to get super excited and then I'm going to find out more about him and then I'm going to crash. Personally, I do not enjoy that roller coaster ride. In a way that I like to care for my heart and to care for my emotions is to take some precautions so I'm not constantly on that ride, right? If there's one thing I hear from my clients, it's like, it's a roller coaster. It definitely can be, but it doesn't have to be, okay? So the first part, make a decision, right? And then the second part is, if you kind of notice that you're starting to get really excited and you're starting to imagine a future and you're starting to see yourself in this situation and in that situation, just notice that's what's happening. You can enjoy the fantasy, but just kind of notice that a fantasy is different than reality. And what can you do to allow yourself the joy of the excitement without necessarily deciding that it's real, that it's reality? Because the only way that we know that is through time, right? So then the other thing is, I pay really close attention in the beginning because I've discovered that how people show up in the beginning is actually telling me a lot about who they are. If a man leaves me a text and says, I'll text you tomorrow and we'll figure out our plan or we'll make a time, and then I don't hear from them, I assume that that's who he is. He's somebody who says he's going to do something and doesn't do that. That's not a fit for me. Now, of course, if he gets back to me and says, hey, my kid was sick, or, if he has some legitimate reason, I will certainly take that into account. But I do not step over when somebody shows up in a way that doesn't feel good, that isn't a match for the level of integrity that I want my man to be and the way that I show up. So I pay a lot of attention to those signs. If we make a date and he's late, I pay attention to that. If he's late and he comes in with a effusive apology versus with some excuse, I pay attention to that. People are telling us who they are all the time, and it's up to me, it's our job to listen to that and to pay attention to it. And then, of course, the last thing, which I just see so many people, which is something I actually teach my clients how to do. How do you ask questions without somebody feeling like you're putting them on the stand or you're interrogating them or it's an interview, right? So the main way, and this is actually something I teach my clients to do because there's a little bit of an art to it, but if I'm just going to give you one little tip, I would say, let yourself be curious and follow your natural curiosity. If you're genuinely curious about their former relationships or their career or where they lived growing up, let yourself follow that curiosity and ask whatever you want to ask. People love being asked about themselves. And if the person you're with is really closed and guarded, that's information, right? If somebody I meet and they don't ask me questions, they don't inquire about my life, that's kind of a not a deal breaker, but it's like it doesn't excite me. I like it when people are curious about me because it lets me know that they want to know more, right? So those are the things that kind of are ways to manage and modulate the level of excitement so that it's proportionate and maybe appropriate to the stage of dating. So I said this in a comment recently that I don't really let myself feel like really excited about somebody until we're at, I don't know, maybe date 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, and it's consistently going well. Right? And that's when I'll begin to kind of feel like, okay, I know a little bit more about this person. We're getting to know more about each other. We see how we show up in different contexts and how it feels and what the quality of conversation is like, right? So kind of like I match my excitement to where we are in the unfolding. Now, if you're somebody who either likes that ride or you don't mind going on that ride, you can do it however you want. Most of the clients that I work with, they don't like that ride. And it's actually a reason that they have gotten frustrated with dating or start to want to opt out of dating or just feel like they keep getting super excited and then they crash. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I know some of you are going to be catching this in the replay. And if so, please just let me know that you were here. So I know, so say your name, an emoji, a little comment, a question. And I'm curious how this resonates with you and how you're doing so far on your dates, kind of modulating and managing your excitement to equilibrium ratio. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye for now.